नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओ Welcome. Namaste. Welcome to the third session on how to cross Kali Yuga. Crossing can be done, but how to cross it without becoming cross? That is the idea. And so we have to cover some background, as I said. And some of it has been covered and some of it is left. And I hope to do that in this and the next session before we get into the text. So in the last session, just to recap, we saw how the the Veda is divided into two portions. The first portion of the Veda, and then what else? The last portion of the Veda, aka Vedanta, which literally means Vedanam Antah, that which is at the end of the Vedas. The reason to make this bifurcation, we also saw, is because it caters to completely different audiences. It has completely, both the parts, both the portions have completely different subject matters. And the relationship between the subject matter and the audience is also completely different. Because in the first one, the person is made to do something. It is karya para. The first portion is all about doing. Keep on doing and keep doing this, doing that, doing this, and then after that what? More doing. And then the second portion says doing is your undoing. And so it's a completely different connection. There's no with the subject matter. Finally, the prayojana, the purpose of the first portion of the Veda and the second portion, the last portion, are also completely different. The first portion of the Veda it keeps on reiterating your own understanding of yourself as a desiring, wanting, incomplete, insecure individual. It reiterates that because that's where the person is. It's not the fault of the Veda. It is just that that's where the person is. And sometimes when one is convinced of oneself or being a certain way, then it is very difficult to convince the person otherwise. And so the Shruti embraces one wherever one is. Shruti means Veda. Veda, the first portion, embraces one wherever one is. And the desiring person is upheld. The desiring person is validated. And how can you validate the desiring person without validating the desires? So the desires also connected to the desiring person, they are also validated. And then what? And then one is told to get into the on the road, drive on the road of dharma. And you drive on the road, you learn to drive on the road of dharma. This is what one is told to do. It's just fascinating. Because otherwise one is going all over the place. And this is very aptly illustrated. We are taking a little field trip to the Kathopanishad, and there it is very aptly illustrated in the Ratha Kalpana. What is Ratha Kalpana? Chariot imagery. In the chariot imagery, it is, it's very beautifully illustrated. And this chariot imagery has also been borrowed completely by the Bhagavad Gita, without paying any royalty. That's how it was. Knowledge was in ancient India. No copyright because you don't have a say over the knowledge. No royalty. You don't have to pay anything. It was knowledge free, freely given, freely taken. So this, what is so great about this chariot imagery is that it very aptly talks about the journey of life. The body is a chariot. Some bodies are in mint condition. They are like a BMW, very costly, rich, smoothly plying on the roads. The other one is like a jalopi. Another body is like a jalopi. Jalopi means to go to the neighborhood grocery store, which is just a few yards. It's faster to walk than to go in that kind of a car. It gasps, it coughs, it sputters, it wheezes, and then finally it gets there. So some bodies are like that because it is the fruit of karma. That is how it is. So some bodies are like that, some bodies are like this, and then, but nonetheless, the chariot is the body, and then what? The sense organs are the horses. And if they are left free to just fly wherever they wanted to, then they would just get disconnected from the chariot and go on various trips into the grasses of the sense objects. That's why there are rains. And everybody cannot handle the rains. You need a Lord Krishna there in the form of the buddhi. The rains are the mind. The first level of nigraha, control, management of those objects of desire. Yes, I like this. Yes, I want to go here, but not now. This is not right for me right now because my focus is elsewhere. Who says that? First, the mind says that. The mind is in the form of the rains. And then what? The buddhi, which is stronger than the mind, is in the form of Lord Krishna. It's Bhagavan. Buddhi is Bhagavan sitting in the heart, sitting in the body mind complex, which is the chariot. And then the road is the road of dharma, paved with the bricks of what to do and what not to do. Samanya dharma. How to respect the universal laws of the Lord. Do not cheat, do not take other people's property away, do not lie, do not kill, do not do himsa. All these things are, this is universal. It's not that these laws have only come from India. They are there in all cultures, in all religions, in everything. And so this is the road paved with the stones of do's and don'ts, so that we are able to lead our lives and we train ourselves to drive this chariot on the road of righteousness. Then what else? And then we forgot the main person. Who is the main person? The Rathaswami, the person sitting in the chariot behind the driver and saying, faster, faster, go faster. I want a joy ride. And I want to experience the wind. Faster. That one. Who is this Rathaswami? That Rathaswami is is the Ahankara. The Ahankara, the I notion, is the Rathaswami, the owner of the chariot. And then what? Then the Kathopanishad talks about how if the horses are trained to be well behaved, then the chariot reaches its destination. What is the destination of someone driving and traveling constantly on the road of Dharma? Atma Jnanam. That's the only destination. No other destination is possible. Dharma is the basis for Atma Jnana. And then that Dharma keeps on getting refined in one's heart. And then one grows into a person incapable of causing even the slightest disturbance to another. That is the growth. So this is the imagery in the Kathopanishad. And here too, in the first portion of the Veda, this is what is accomplished. One becomes a devotee, one listens to the buddhi, one drops or rather grows out of strong and pressure filled desires, and one is able to walk or drive the body on the path of dharma. This is the gift of the first portion of the Veda. And then what? Then the problem comes because one doesn't know how to jump to the next portion. Because, oh, I'm a devotee. What will happen to my puja? Well, you can continue doing puja. No, but still, what will happen? And then what will happen to these relationships? What will happen to my Ishta Devata, means the deity of my choice? What will happen to all these people with whom I have certain ways, dysfunctional most of the time, but certain ways of dealing? What will happen to all of this? All this I have to give up? Yes. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. I think I'm very comfortably ensconced in the first portion of the Veda. Why not I continue being a devotee? In this life, devotee. Next life, devotee. Third life, devotee. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. If you are happy doing that, then I encourage you to log off. These series of talks are not for you. So this is, there is nothing wrong in being a devotee. Being a devotee and learning to walk the path of ahimsa and dharma and the yamas, niyamas, all this, learning to walk that path is like wearing a tuxedo. So if somebody is wearing a tuxedo, you expect them to have some kind of a very formal engagement outside the house. And then you ask them, where are you going? Are you going to the opera? Are you going to some big party? No. Are you going to some big opening? Some function? No. Then why are you wearing this? Are you getting married? No. Then why are you wearing this tuxedo? Well, I just am going to stay at home in my tuxedo. It is exactly like that. All dressed up with dharma and no place to go. No place to go, and the person is adamant that I cannot cross over. It's not a crossing over, it's a gradual graduation, but one doesn't understand this because the jiva is a very clingy jiva, very clingy. Like that, you get one, what is that called? To put over the food things and all, some kind of a plastic wrap. So first you tear it out of it, comes in a long box container and which has some serrated edges. Then you first tear it out of that. Then it sticks to this hand, okay? Then you go like this, and then you try to take it out with the other hand. Then it sticks to that hand. And by the time you try to cover the food with it, it has become a laddu, okay? It has become a ball. So, like this, the person is stuck to the first portion of the Veda out of that same sense of insecurity, which the second portion of the Veda is waiting to remove, waiting patiently to remove. And the second portion of the Veda, it's almost like it says, I'm no different. I'm also called Veda. I'm no different. You won't come to any harm. In fact, you will be very, very happy. You'll be happier still because as a devotee, you are just filled with longing. When will you give darshan? That is the longing. Darshan kab doge? When will you give me darshan? And Bhagavan needs a cough drop because Bhagavan is hoarse, telling you, I am everything that you see is my darshan alone. But this is not heard. That's why all the manifestations of Bhagavan have stopped talking, including Lord Dakshinamurti, Mauna Vyakya. Because the jivas are what can I say? The jivas are so stubborn and clingy, and they are just, you just put them on something and then they just, latch on to that as though their life depends on it. And so the chasm between the first portion of the Veda, which gives a certain security, which validates the desires, which validates the desiring person, which says it's okay, you can take your time to get to Bhagavan as yourself, you can take your time and you can just do this. You have all these desires to fulfill. Let's fulfill them together. I will give you the hymn, and it's like a potluck. I will give you the sukta. You bring your own ghee to the homa, okay? And then you can, I will show you how to offer, and you offer, and you grow. So this way, I will help you grow. But the person doesn't want to grow, grows for a little bit, and after that reaches a plateau because of the fear and insecurity. And so this jump from the first portion to the second portion of the Veda is a longer jump than what was made by Lord Hanumanji from this what is that called, from Rameshwaram to Jaffna. He jumped. That's the shortest distance between India and Sri Lanka. He jumped there. And so that leap is nothing compared to the leap that one is called to do here, because it is like doing a Shirshasana. In fact, a Shirshasana is easier. You can balance yourself on the head, but here it requires turning everything that you know and that you are comfortable with and that you are happy with and that you are clinging on to as a definition of your own identity. It takes a lot to let go of that. And so therefore it seems easier to just go with the flow. Even though there is no flow, I will sit in the dry river bed and I will just, this is who I am and I'm not going any further. So the chasm between the two portions of the Veda seem so huge, insurmountable really. And so therefore what? So therefore for such a person, the what should I say, the Upanishads, hardcore Upanishads. Oh, there are such certain things like that. Yeah, there are very serious Upanishads. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says all that is there is you and get over it. This is what it is. And then Chandogya Upanishad, which has the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, which Shvetaketu, the protagonist, heard 9 times, and then he was enlightened. He got up and went away. So these are all very serious Upanishad that go straight to the heart of the matter, which is Atma Ajnanam, which really speaking matters a lot, because as long as there is Atma Ajnanam reigning in the heart, Bhagavan will run away, or rather Bhagavan is there eclipsed by the tamas of Atma Ajnanam, self-ignorance. And so that tamas has to be removed. And so therefore this is a very difficult gap to bridge. If one immediately started to study all these Upanishads, then one would dig one's heels and stay there as a devotee and will not have the impetus to inquire into that object of devotion, that Ishvara, that Bhagavan, that Lord, that Goddess, who is non-separate from the I. There is no impetus to do that, because there is some kind of a safety in wanting and connecting to the Savior. There is a Savior. Everybody wants a Savior. In fact, many theologies thrive on this concept of Savior. That is why they are so popular, because you don't have to do anything. You can just, you just need to be saved and somebody will come and save. And there is this messianic theologies are very comforting to the jiva who is extremely insecure. But here, our theology is far from messianic. There is no savior at all. What savior? And in fact, my teacher went to this Global Peace Millennium Summit in New York. It was a big deal. It was there in the year 2000 at the United Nations. And then after he finished speaking, he was caught off guard because somebody thrust a microphone in his face and said, "Do you have a message for the new year?" And he said, "I don't have a message. I have a prayer." What is the prayer? "Oh Lord, please save me from all saviors." This is the prayer. This is the prayer. In fact, it encapsulates the Vaidika Dharma very, very beautifully. Because this is the unique feature of the Vedic tradition. is that you have a direct connection to Bhagavan. You don't need any intermediary. You don't need anybody to come and save you. You don't need anybody to come and do anything. Oh, but you have avatars. Yes, avatars also need not come if we minded our own business. But since we don't mind our own business, we need certain reminders in the form of Rama, Krishna. They are not saviors. They just are guides along the way. They are not saviors. This is not a salvific tradition at all. Why? Because the question of saving comes only and only when one is bound. If bondage is real, then you need to be saved. But then if bondage is real, think about it, that which is real, real means what? Non-negatable, abadhitam. If it is real, if bondage is real, it cannot be removed. Oh, is that so? Yes, that is so. Think about it. Okay, bondage is unreal. If bondage is unreal, it need not be removed. Where does that put us? So therefore, this bondage has a very iffy kind of a situation. The bondage, so to speak, is a notion. It's notional. It is centered on the self. Exactly where the I is recognized, in that antahkarana alone, that notion of bondage is there, is also recognized. The mistake that is made is in equating the I with the notion of bondage and conflating the two together, leading to the wrong conclusion. I am bound. Baddhoham. And I need to be mukta, free. And so therefore, I have to do something. This doing is one's undoing. This is the message of the second portion of the Veda. The doing is exactly one's own undoing. Because this bondage, being notional, cannot be removed by action, karma, because it is in the head. And so, since the bondage is cognitive, the freedom also should be cognitive. In the pursuit of freedom must also be cognitive. If the bondage is cognitive, freedom is also cognitive, cognitively pursued. Why? Because this is why the Upanishads must be studied. In the vision of the Upanishads, you were never bound. You are never bound. You were always unbound, free, limitless, whole. In fact, equated to that sentient consciousness, which is the cause, which is manifest as the cause of the universe. So even though this sentient, all-pervasive, all-knowing consciousness is as though abiding in this, indwelling this finite body-mind sense complex, it doesn't come under the spell of the body or the mind or the senses. It does not get afflicted by the emotions which the person undergoes. It is completely asanga, not at all touched, totally untouched. By what? By the roles that the person has to play. And this is what is the message of the second portion of the Veda. What are you going to do to understand it? Because it is Siddha Vastu Vishaya. It is something that is already attained. But then it has to be understood, because even though it is attained, it is as though away from me, because the separating factor between me and self-knowledge is what? Is not time or space, but or any kind of distance, but the distance is one of self-ignorance. So when the self-ignorance is removed, that knowledge shines. राहुग्रस्थ दिवाकरेन्दु सदृशो माया समाच्छादनात् सन्मात्रः करणोपसंहरणतो यो भूत् सुषुप्तः पुमान्. This is described very beautifully in one of the stanzas of the Dakshinamurti Stotram. And there it says that like the sun and the moon caught by the eclipse in the form of the shadow planets Rahu and Ketu, which is the shadow of the the moon, etc. And so falling on the sun. So just like that, this this I, the I notion, the ahankara, is eclipsed by what? Is eclipsed by this atma ajnanam, self ignorance. And so the person is sleeping the deep sleep of self ignorance. And somebody said ignorance is bliss. Huh. Only ignorance is bliss. Okay, yeah. Ignorance is not bliss. If you know that you are ignorant, you cannot handle it. You want to remove it very, very quickly. Which is what brings us to the study of the second portion of the Veda. And so all these Upanishads, they all have a place and they all have a flavor and a flair in helping remove this Atma Ajnanam. They are all Nivrittipara. Nivrittipara means focused on, dedicated to removing Atma Ajnanam. But then they all have a special place. They all have a special operation. Like I said, certain pedagogies and certain ways of, expressing understanding. And, certain Upanishads hit home in a certain way, and certain others touch you in a different way, provided one is ready. The readiness is everything. If the readiness is not there, Upanishad is just like a foreign language. You don't, one doesn't connect to it because one only looks for what makes sense in that particular context that one is. So in the context of Atma Ajnanam, what makes sense are sense objects and things that one wants to pursue. Why? So that I can become something that I don't think I am. I want to become more famous. I want to become more eligible for whatever I want to pursue. I want to become more accomplished. There is a pressure. And in that pressure filled life, one does not see the Upanishad, even though it's right there. It may be at home. Somebody was telling me that all the 108 Upanishads belong to some grandfather or something like that, and it was right in the house, kept in the cupboard. Nobody opened even the cupboard. The grandfather was long gone. And they just kept, these are Tata's books, grandfather's books, and they just kept it and reverentially. And then suddenly the desire to study came, and then they were surprised. This has been in our house for 25 years, and I'm looking at it now. That is how it is. That interest has to be quickened, that has to come, and then this is where the Kali Santarana Upanishad shines. Because it prepares you, it not only removes ignorance, but also prepares you for the self-knowledge. It prepares you very, very beautifully. Like I said in the earlier class, that there is it's a bridge. It builds a beautiful bridge for you between the first and the last portion of the Veda, between Veda and Vedanta. So if you're walking on the bridge, it's not so scary like the Hanuman's jump, right? Yeah. So the first Hanuman jumped and then found out the whereabouts of Sita. See, this is all metaphorical. The Ramayana is very, very beautiful and metaphorical. Sita is Shanti, and Shanti is lost to the asuras of the sense organs in the form of Ravana and company. And then Sita has to be got back. That Shanti has to be got back. It has to be with Rama so he can revel in the truth of himself. Without Sita, he is incomplete because Sita is Shanti. That Shanti which is the prasada of self-knowledge. And so Hanumanji is devotion, Shraddha, Bhakti. And that leap of faith, going and locating the whereabouts of Sita. And then what? And then finally, all the Vanaras. The word Vanara doesn't mean monkey, okay? Narova Nava iti Shanka. There is a slight doubt. Are they human beings or not? That is why they are called Vanaras, some kind of a humanoid race. And so they, along with all the other animals, help build a bridge to go and see what's there on the other side and to rescue that Atma Shanti, which is self knowledge. Shanti is the prasada of self knowledge. So, to rescue that Atma Shanti, they want to go to the other side and rescue it from the mouth of the asuric tendencies. And in the same way, the Kali Santarana Upanishad, the becomes a very valuable bridge from the first portion of the Veda and then the last portion of the Veda. Because when you're walking on the bridge, it is not so scary. Because even if it's a suspended bridge, you can hold on to the handrails on either side. Some bridges are scary. I saw one, somebody sent me a photo, a glass bottom bridge, and then it is just somewhere perched high on top. And that everybody, has the heart coming to the mouth when they cross. But this is not that kind of a bridge. This is a solid, nice bridge, a very predictable bridge. And so when you're walking on the bridge, there is the confidence, I can always go back. I can go visit the first portion of the Veda. I'm not leaving it. I'm only visiting the Upanishad to see what it may have to offer. I'm not really going on the other side. It gives a certain security. And then it is inviting. So whereas if the study of one big Upanishad were to be offered, maybe one or two people will straddle along, and then but if something like this is offered, it's a bridge. Many more people are ready to go on the bridge than to take a sudden leap. Sudden leap is scary. So this becomes a very, very gentle bridge. And the bridge, uses the measure of time. So the bridge is paved with the stones of the concept of time in the Hindu Dharma. Very, very interesting. So, in a way, it's ironical. It's a paradox that the bridge to timelessness is paved with the stones of time. This is very, very fascinating. And so, why? Because one is caught up in time. One is caught up in time, so may as well have a treatise of time and understand the times that we are living in. This is important because the influences of the other people and the large swaths of ups and downs in the jagat influence the person living in the jagat naturally. Even if one is living in an ashram, one is not living in a vacuum. One is reading the newspaper, one is knowing that there is war going on, there is strife, there is fear, there is terror, there is terrorism, and there is homicides, all kinds of things. And where people are, one can see that dharma is going to the dogs, and therefore there is a loss of faith, there is a loss of trust, there is even a loss of devotion. So understanding the time and that which is called Kali Yuga is therefore very, very important. How does it articulate in the world and how does it articulate in one's life right now? Then the Kali Yuga is just a little beep in time. Like when you hit something up in the microwave, at the end of it, what does it say? Beep, beep. That one beep is Kali Yuga. Because we have a very, very big understanding of time. And that is not just earthly time. We have an understanding of celestial time. We have an understanding of celestial time is also divided into foremothers and forefathers time in the Pitraloka. Pitraloka means where all our foremothers and forefathers, our ancestors live. So that there is an ancestral time. There is a, these karma devatas time. Karma devata means those who bring chai to the other devas. So they they also have a certain concept of time. That is also very, very painstakingly by some mathematician, I suppose, written, talked about in the Puranas, in the Bhagavatam. It's all this is talked about. Very painstaking mathematics. You will see this. And then there is a concept of Brahmaji, the creator of the universe. I say Brahmaji because sometimes we can mistake it for Brahman. No, Brahmaji, the creator of the universe, the four-faced manifestation of Bhagavan. And he also has a concept of time. And his time is the ultimate unit of time based on which all other measures of times are compared. Then, of course, there is the lowly mortals, all of us. We have our measure of time as well. So, what is this? What is this time thing has got to do with anything? Unfortunately, there is no time to discuss that right now. So we'll have to defer it to the next satsang. But suffice it to say that there is a rahasya there. There is a rahasya. There is a rahasya means a mystery there. There is a mystery, and there is a mystery to be understood from the standpoint of the one that is looking at the time. The one who is looking at all these measures of time cut up into little and big periods is what? Timeless. And that is where one has to come to this understanding. And then only whatever is revealed in the Kathopanishad is the, in the Kali Upanishad, Kali Santarana Upanishad, that is when one can take it to heart. And so, in the next satsang, we will be studying the concept of time as a way to understand oneself as timeless. Thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadagya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.